Hi, I'm Amanda Ross, and this is a Zotero demo. Zotero is very popular on campus, and if you've used other citation management tools like EasyBib, it'll be somewhat familiar. The perk of Zotero is all the style help that it offers is free. So unlike EasyBib, which makes you pay for anything other than MLA, it is free. And I particularly like Zotero because it is a way to keep track of your research as you go along. But before we get into the setup of Zotero, I'm going to show you guys the finished product. So here we have the Phillips website with the library page here. And we're in Firefox, and because Zotero was made for Firefox, we have a Z in the corner here with a page icon. But if we were to click this library catalog link and do a search, it is now turned into a folder. And that's because it is recognizing that this is a list of results of things we might want to cite individually. So as we scroll down there, we can select what we want added. I'm going to do the last one there. And it's recognizing that we are about to save something and that we did select something. And if we hit the Z, we can see in our browser our library, which is a collection of all our citations we've ever saved to Zotero. And we can organize them by duplicating them into folders here. So it's like a playlist in that you aren't moving files around, you're just duplicating the files and organizing them by topic or class or idea. So if you click on the citation that you saved, it comes up here as well, and this is the metadata where it will pull from to create your bibliography and citations. Sometimes it will not know all of the information because it's just pulling from whatever it has access to. So you may have to go in here and fill in the blanks or correct any typos and such, because if you don't, then it will pull that and put it into your footnotes or citations. So keep that in mind, or you can just leave it as is and correct in your Word document. If we were to go to a website, such as the New York Times, I'll close Zotero here, and see that a search engine does not turn it into a folder icon. So it's not wanting you to cite these individual places because that could get complicated. But we click on the New York Times, and it's still a page icon. But when I click not an ad, when I click an article, this icon will change to a newspaper because it's recognizing the type of source it is. Maybe it will change. There we go. So the icon is there, and you would just hit that icon to save it instantly there. I've created a pretend document with a pretend quote here that needs a footnote. So instead of going to references and then insert footnote, we're going to use the Zotero icons, which were made available to me once I installed the Zotero Word plugin. So this first icon is for insert citation, and we've got a footnote there. And this bar comes up where I can search my entire library for the relevant citation. So let's say it's that one. Then we hit enter, and we scroll down, and there it is. And I may need to add page numbers, what have you, and correct it. But it got me 90% of the way there, and I can always come back and add additional information. It's not set in stone there. If I wanted to add another one, let's do it again. So add that. And so I've got these two citations here from that huge list of my library, but now I'm ready to create a bibliography. So I would type works cited, and then I would go to this icon, and it's going to, so it just did pull from the only sources I've used in my paper, not create a bib using my entire library, just the ones that I've pulled from for this paper. And the defaults in Word may be throwing off the formatting, or I may need to, I don't know why it's doing that, may need to go back into the citation there and clean up the way it looks with punctuation and such. So I may need to either look at the defaults in Word for like spacing, or the metadata in Zotero. Another way to use Zotero is with the standalone version. I recommend downloading both. Depending on your mood for the day, one might be more convenient than the other, or if you don't like using the Zotero or the Firefox browser one day, you were already using Chrome, so you can just use the Chrome browser that you're in. But for the Zotero library, it looks just like it did with the Firefox browser version. You can select from your full library, right-click, and then say create bibliography, and you can do an annotated bib as well if you had been adding notes into the extra field. And you can select your style here, and I've selected Chicago and what I need, and then copy to clipboard, which is just the copy and paste feature. And so if I had a blank document, I could just paste in there, and I have all of those that I just selected using the control and mouse clicking is what I did originally. So that's a way to create a bibliography on your own without the footnotes being. So now that we've seen what Zotero can do, you would need to download the right version. Like I said before, though, I recommend downloading both. It's just handy to have one in case maybe Firefox isn't working for you one day. You still have the standalone. And then you would want to register for a Zotero account, because when you do that, through an email validation, which will also give you more information about setting up Zotero. But when you do that, actually let's go to my Chrome browser here, just to show you. You can log in to Zotero.org. And it recognizes me here, but you also have access to your library regardless of whether or not the computer you're currently on has Zotero downloaded on it. Sorry. So you always will have access to your library, so you can delete or manually add here with this add button, and you would just select and continue. It's not going to work if you're writing your paper right then, because if you don't have Zotero downloaded on the computer, then it's likely you don't have the Zotero Word plugin installed either, but you always will have access to your content here. The documentation tab, I would also like to point out, it's very helpful. It's their help link. So once you get your username and password verified, you can go into your standalone version or your Firefox version, into the settings, into the sync tab, and plug in your username and password there. And this is why I say there are 3 versions of Zotero: the standalone, Firefox, and web-based version. You'll hear most people say that there's only 2 versions, and there's only 2 versions you need to download, essentially. These are some reasons why you would want to use all 3, possibly. But if you do download both versions. You should only be using one at a time, otherwise there may be a delay in syncing. So keep that in mind. This is a screenshot from a book that I also recommend. He wrote this LibGuide as well. The author of the book I just mentioned created this LibGuide. I recommend his videos and his handouts, and here is a link to that LibGuide and more on the annotated bibliographies here should you be interested. And so the final thing you would want to install is the plugin for Word, and depending on what version of Word, it may come up as a tab instead of these icons here. And I had to manually add these icons to the ribbon, which is explained in those slides. But some people get this Zotero tab instead, and sometimes if I've seen this in a Mac user where it just says add-ins instead of Zotero, but it's all the same icons there. So keep that in mind. And there's also a citation help links list in the Resources for Success course in Moodle, along with these slides and this video presentation. So be sure to check there for any more help, or feel free to contact the library.